language absolutely matters. And as they are making good on the conditions of the peace plan, both sides of the conflict in Palestine, we are hearing one side, their released humans, being called one thing, and the other side's released humans being called another. We see how the language is twisted or used to imply certain things or to differentiate the type of people that are being released. And I see and I understand the frustrations. Many of the infographics that I'm seeing are from individuals, pages that I follow, that are understandably upset that we are calling, or that the media is calling, those that have been detained and held by Palestine hostages. These 20 Israeli hostages that are being released, and then they're calling those that have been detained by Israel, the Palestinians, prisoners. They want everybody to be called hostages. This is simply not the case, however. Hostages, that word, implies that that person, those persons, were taken as a means to use them as some sort of bargaining chip to get what you want. That is what a hostage is. A prisoner is someone that has been detained and is typically awaiting some sort of trial to be tried for a crime, potentially. But there's another word that nobody is using, and that is captive. Those are persons that are just taken for no reason and held against their will. So those Palestinians that are being held, detained against their will by Israel, some of them for years, longer than 2 years. And we're looking at a number 10,000 to potentially 20,000 as they did collect more and more throughout the course of the 2-year conflict, genocide, between the two sides, one inflicted on the other. While some of them may be potentially prisoners because they were picked up for doing something that Israel regarded as against a law, many of them are just simply captives. Israel is not bargaining with Palestine or Gaza or the West Bank or whatever you want to call it. They're not trying to get anything from them. Those were not hostages. They were either prisoners, potentially illegally detained, or captives. But it really doesn't matter. At the end of the day, everybody involved, and let's not forget prisoner of war. If we want to consider this a war, which I don't, some of those hostages, if they were in the IDF, actively in uniform at the time that they were taken, those are prisoners of war. If you want to consider this a war, which I don't, but I'm just throwing that out there as well. At the end of the day, though, everybody involved is a human taken against their will. Period. A human taken against their will and detained for a period of time in which they were unable to get free. My further issue is the fact that we're able to see videos of those persons detained against their will from one side reuniting with their families in their homes, their structures. They're able to cry, they're able to celebrate, they're able to have media news coverage about it. Whereas the other side We're seeing them coming out in tears because their loved ones are no longer with us. They're not being reunited in homes because their homes have been blown to smithereens. They've been told they're not allowed to celebrate. They've been told they're not allowed to speak to the media. For so long, there have been thousands of children, men and women held against their will by one state far before October 7th of 2023. No one ever thinks to question that. And the fact that hostages were taken on October 7th, 2023 didn't really trigger anybody to ask, why would a group of people who knows they cannot win against one of the most powerful armies in the world, funded and backed by one of the most powerful armies in the world, why would they risk what they risked to take hostages in the first place? That's a group of people acting on or representing and acting under the belief that they have nothing to lose, that their conditions are so deplorable that they have nothing to lose. Why would they risk that if they felt like their lives were so stable, free, happy, joyous, free from fear? So my concern now is that if one side can dictate how the other side receives and responds to the release of their own captives, prisoners, hostages, people detained against their will, then it seems to me that Israel doesn't have 10 to 20,000 captives. They have 2 million captives. 2 million. If Israel has such control over how they can respond to reunification with their loved ones, respond to their own genocide, what they can have being brought in to eat, to rebuild, where they can go, if they can fish their own waters, if they can collect their own rainwater, then it seems to me that Israel has had for decades 2 million captives. Never mind the West Bank as well. So if we're going to get caught up in language, and perhaps we want to simplify things, because why overcomplicate something when we're dealing with the lives of humans, be they brown or be they white? It seems to me that we could simplify it with the understanding that one side has long been in control of the entire population against their will, while the other side has just simply been controlled. And that October 7th was a reaction and an attempt to obtain a bargaining chip in which they hoped they would be able to use to free themselves from illegal detainment or captivity. Those are just my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comment section below.